do you look back on England's tournament as a whole?
Yeah, I would say we built and built across the tournament. We had some amazing results, and in the end, we fell short against Argentina. And yeah, it hurts a lot to all of us. And I'm sure it's the same for the fans back home. But we have to hold our head high and move on and focus on the next one. That's what I said.
Finally, yesterday, John Stones said he doesn't like the noise around the manager. How do you feel about that?
I think it's just part of the game. You know, when you lose, there's always going to be noise. When you win, there's going to be noise. It's how you react to it, how you use it as fuel. And yeah, today we finished strong, so that's all we could really do, and we done it.
Kylian, est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer ce match complètement fou? Alors, il n'y a pas la victoire au bout, mais quel scénario incroyable quand même. Kylian Mbappe qui va saluer Thomas Tuchel, son ancien coach du PSG. Bon, Kylian, qu'est-ce que vous ressentez après ce qu'on vient de voir?
Je sais pas. Je pense qu'il y a eu 2 mi-temps différentes. Je pense que dans la première mi-temps, je peux comprendre certains qui pensent que c'est du foutage de gueule, qu'on n'a pas respecté le maillot. Moi, je dirais plus qu'on a été humain et que malheureusement, nous, on peut pas se permettre d'être humain. Je pense qu'on était complètement sonnés et je pense qu'ils nous ont bien réveillés. Après, en deuxième mi-temps, on est redevenus des joueurs de haut niveau, des machines mentales qui font que on a plus de sentiments. Et donc, on a réussi à faire ce qu'on fait, de gagner cette deuxième mi-temps, mais au final, on gagne pas. Et je pense que c'est plus dommage pour le coach. On voulait faire quelque chose pour lui. Malheureusement, la première mi-temps, il a l'impression qu'on l'a laissé tomber. Et c'est pas du tout ce qu'on voulait faire ressentir. Mais c'est comme ça, c'est le football. Nous, on veut remercier le coach pour tout ce qu'il a fait, parce que ce match-là va pas entacher la légende de Didier Deschamps.
S'il y a un point positif, parce qu'il y en a quand même un, c'est que vous devenez le meilleur buteur de l'histoire de la Coupe du Monde ce soir. Alors, en tout cas pour les prochaines 24 heures, puisque vous devancez Léo Messi d'un but, donc on va attendre la finale demain. Mais ça vous fait quoi en termes d'émotion et en termes d'objectifs personnels, parce que c'est incroyable ce que vous faites.
Non, je l'ai dit, Léo, il marque tout le temps. Demain, il va marquer, c'est sûr. Moi, j'essaie juste d'aider mon équipe à chaque fois à marquer. C'est sûr que quand tu marques autant de buts en Coupe du Monde, ça te fait évoluer dans certaines sphères. Mais voilà, j'aurais aimé ne pas être le meilleur buteur de l'histoire et jouer demain le match. Donc, je pense que c'est bien pour tout ce qui est héritage et quand on va arrêter de se dire que j'ai été un de ces joueurs-là. Mais aujourd'hui, c'est pas la première chose qui traverse mon esprit.
Merci, Kylian.
On July 18th, 2026, in Miami, FIFA accidentally organized the wrong match. Fans bought tickets for the World Cup third-place playoff, the game everyone quietly understands to be 90 minutes of a stroll in the park. 2 teams going through the motions before heading back to the hotel buffet. Instead, they got a circus with its own separate ticket price. 6-4. Read that again. Slowly. This isn't elite football between 2 nations that call themselves masters of modern tactics. This is a match where both defenses seem to compete over who could invite the other team to score more politely. Over those 90 minutes, we watched a first half where the French defense played like it was in a yoga class. A second half where England attacked like they were deliberately giving the game away just to keep things from getting boring. And a penalty struck so gently, it looked more like a magic trick than a shot on goal. This video isn't here for serious tactical analysis because honestly, that day there wasn't much tactics to analyze. This is a journey to answer football's biggest question. How do 11 of a nation's finest players, each earning tens of millions a year, come together to produce a match this entertaining while looking nothing like elite football at all? Buckle up. The Miami Circus is about to begin. Before kickoff, the media painted a very serious picture. They called it the match of noble losers. 2 teams that had just collapsed in the semifinals, now fighting for nothing but pride. On the French side, experts were confident this would be the perfect farewell performance for coach Didier Deschamps, a man with a 77% win rate, a World Cup winner's passport, and a defense praised as the most experienced in Europe. Everyone expected France to control the tempo, hold possession, and slowly strangle their opponent. As they always do, on the English side, the story was even more amusing. The starting lineup had no captain Harry Kane, no Jude Bellingham, and starting goalkeeper Jordan Pickford was on the bench. Looking at that team sheet, everyone predicted the same script, a just-for-show lineup, with Coach Tuchel using this meaningless fixture to let his backups take a nice stroll on the Miami grass. A section of England's own fans even booed their manager right before kickoff as if prophesying, "This team won't amount to anything." And that, right there, was the first sleight of hand of the night. Collective illusion. Both teams walked onto the pitch with two completely different scripts in their heads. France thought they'd play a safe, controlled game to send Deschamps off in dignity. England, that backup squad, had nothing to lose. And when you have nothing to lose, you play like you're in a weekend pickup game with friends. No pressure, no calculation, just pure instinct. The problem is, the pure instinct of players wearing Arsenal, Manchester City, or Real Madrid shirts is still more dangerous than a carefully calculated plan from the opponent. And France's overconfidence, the kind of confidence that comes from a beautiful record on paper, turned out to be the very time bomb waiting to go off from the opening minutes. In other words, one team walked out thinking they were at an afternoon tea party. The other walked out thinking they were having a practice session nobody was watching. And the circus, like every proper circus, needed exactly one ingredient to open the show. One side of overconfident performers, and one side of an audience that had no idea it was about to become the main act. The kickoff whistle had barely faded when the curtain went up. 134 seconds. That's all the time France's defense needed to hand Declan Rice an opening night gift. A long-range strike the goalkeeper barely had time to track. The second fastest goal in England's World Cup history. And it came because France played the ball out, almost straight to their opponent. In the 18th minute came the aerial defending act. A corner kick, the kind of set piece any professional side drills for hundreds of hours, turned into a free header for Ezri Konsa. As comfortable as a training ground drill. 2-0. The stands started laughing. Not from joy, from disbelief. But the headline act of the show belonged to Bukayo Saka, who by the 37th minute had people wondering whether France's defense was even facing a real back line. Picking up the ball completely unmarked. Facing goal, not a single blue shirt tracking him, Saka calmly curled home the third goal as if taking an unopposed penalty. And as if to prove the first wasn't a fluke. In first half stoppage time, he did it again. Received the ball. Drove forward. Finished into the far corner. 4-0. Let the numbers tell their own story. France's expected goals for the entire first half were just 0. 28, meaning, statistically, a former world champion barely created a quarter of a real scoring chance in 45 minutes. Meanwhile, Ibrahima Konate, one of the most highly valued center backs in Europe, went into the break with the lowest rating on the pitch. We have to pause here to honor the finest collapse into the ground moments of the first half, what street corner commentators affectionately call zonal defending. With no defined zone, those were the moments when two defenders converged on the same spot, leaving half the pitch wide open behind them. Moments when the goalkeeper screamed instructions nobody seemed to hear, as if the entire team was still surfing the emotional wreckage of their semi-final defeat days earlier. People like to say football is a game of small details, but that first half in Miami had no small details. It had 4 gaps as wide as a castle gate. And England, with a lineup dismissed as the backups, strolled through every single one of them, as casually as an afternoon walk through the park. When the referee blew for halftime with the score at 4-0, an ironic truth hung over Hard Rock Stadium. The team expected to phone it in was leading by 4 goals against the team that had won the World Cup just 8 years earlier. The circus had opened more spectacularly than anyone dared imagine, and like any great circus, it still had an even crazier comeback save for the second act. If the first half was France's circus, the second half was the payback act, and also where one strange tactical call from Coach Tuchel turned the match from massacre into total chaos. Instead of parking the bus and dropping the whole team back to protect a 4-goal cushion, something any coaching manual on earth would recommend, Tuchel let England keep playing on the front foot. In other words, he just won 4-0 and decided to celebrate by leaving the front door wide open and inviting the opponent back in. Just 3 minutes into the second half, Michael Olise set it up. Mbappe finished 1-4. France's pulse started beating again. In the 54th minute, Mbappe returned the favor, setting up Barcola for a thunderous strike. 2-4, and the peak of collective chaos arrived in the 66th minute. A deceptively simple combination, and Mbappe finished to make it 3-4, officially writing his name into history with 22 World Cup goals, surpassing every legend who had ever scored at this tournament. Picture this. You're leading 4-0 after 45 minutes. And in the next 20 minutes, almost the entire cushion evaporates. That's not elite football anymore. That's a card game where both sides suddenly decide to go all in at the same time. Neither one willing to hold back a defensive hand. England's back line, still celebrating minutes earlier, was suddenly scrambling to find its own shape again. Like a game of who's supposed to be standing where. Then came the moments any highlight reel of bloopers channel would have to include. Sloppy passes in midfield as both sides ran on fumes after a brutal run of matches. Defenders chasing the ball like they were running a marathon rather than defending. And at times, you had to wonder if the two coaches were secretly competing over who could concede more. Michael Olise, who had set up both of Mbappe's goals, nearly completed the impossible comeback himself with a shot that clipped the post by inches, a chance that, had it gone in, might have sent the electronic scoreboard in Miami into early retirement from emotional overload. And in the middle of that seemingly endless chaos, England found one steady anchor, Bukayo Saka, seemingly the only player on the pitch immune to the chaos epidemic spreading across Hard Rock Stadium. In the 87th minute, a penalty was awarded, and Saka stepped up with a calm bordering on defiance. In a match where everyone else appeared to have forgotten the very concept of holding your shape, that penalty didn't just push the score to 5-3, it was the one life raft keeping England from drowning in their own overconfidence. As a certified street corner football expert, allow me to sum up this match using a few homemade terms, none of which appear in any official coaching manual on earth. The open door tactic. When a team leads by 4 goals but decides not to shut the door, letting the breeze blow right through. England's second half is the textbook example. Invisible defense syndrome. The phenomenon where center backs suddenly vanish from their positions at the exact moment the opponent needs space the most. France suffered from this for the entire first half. The law of emotional overcorrection. The faster and easier a team scores, the faster their guard drops in free fall. This is the half-joking, half-serious scientific explanation for how a 4-0 lead nearly turned into a draw. The collective chaos. Index a homemade stat measuring how badly an entire lineup can simultaneously forget everything they trained all season for. This match, by my own street corner estimate, hit a record high, dethroning every match I've ever covered from my long and illustrious career of commentary over iced tea. But joking aside, behind the comedy, there's a very real truth. Both teams were playing exhausted physically and mentally after a long tournament, after painful semifinal losses, and after a schedule packed together with almost no mercy. The chaos we've been laughing about this whole video is really just another word for something simpler. Being human. Even the best players on the planet have days where their defending falls apart like autumn leaves. And maybe that imperfection is exactly why football stays more thrilling than any Hollywood script. Because Hollywood would never dare write an ending as crazy as 6-4. And so the Miami Circus closed its curtain with a 6-4 scoreline in England's favor, a result that, if you told someone who hadn't watched it, they'd assume you made up a pickup game on the street. Not a World Cup third-place playoff. But maybe that's exactly why we love football. Not because of perfection, Not because of airtight defenses standing like fortress walls, but because of chaotic, absurd, completely unpredictable moments like this one. A match where both teams somehow forgot to bring their defense, but brought every ounce of fire and individual brilliance instead. Now it's your turn. Who do you think was the standout comedian of the Miami Circus that day? France's first half defense,